Local productions on QTV are made possible with support from viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Junia Doan's The Spark. I'm Junia Doan. Thank you for joining us. My guest today is internationally recognized New York artist Zigi Ben-Haim. Welcome, Zigi, and thank you for inviting us into your wonderful studio today. Your artwork is all around us, and so I'm very interested in how you approach the creative process in the design and fabrication of your work.
Well, it's quite complicated because every period it goes through different process. So it depends what period I was working at the time. I started actually collecting some material from the streets and to do my art this way. And it's grow from there. Later on it was images. And of course the material change accordingly and so on. So it really depends what period of my work and what kind of material I worked at the time and what kind of ideas I had. You know.
Well, one of your most recent pieces is the installation on Broadway. How did that come about?
They approached me from they are actually two organizations that they got together for that commission. One of them is the Public Transportation of New York City, and the other one it's organizations that take care of Soho here, you know. Mm-hmm. And they got together and they asked artists to submit some maquettes, and I was chosen to do the work.
And what idea did you want to express in that work?
Well, you know, I live in Soho almost 40 years, and we don't have parks here, we don't have green, you know, it's all concrete, and I want to emphasize, which is part of my work anyway, I'm working about the environment, and I want to make people aware that the green, it's really, we should treasure it here. We need that green. So I did a piece that kind of, this gentleman here, you can show you that, holding this leaf. And it's like generosity of, is giving to you that in such a way to make you aware that this is really purchased things, you know, to have.
It's like the renewal of life.
Yeah, and the thing is that leaf, it's a major icon in my work for years anyway. So you always, when you have a commission or something, you don't really go away from what you're doing.
Yes.
You just apply what you're doing, what's your idea, your concept on the environment that's been invited to do the work. Yeah.
And what, excuse me, one more thing. You put a red feather in the man's hat?
Yeah, that's, you know, he's a gentleman. He needs some feather or something, you know.
And that's why he has a hat on, because he's a gentleman. Oh, I love that. That's
so
really
yeah, the feather, the hat. Right. You know, sense of humor also, it's kind of important, I think, to pass messages and to make people aware of something. So it's good to use some humor sometimes.
How do you do that in an artistic sense?
Well, it's in the work. It's something that all of a sudden you see something quite absurd. It doesn't belong there.
I see.
But you find a way.
Contrast.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Exactly, because it's all about really to surprise people, to make them curious more when they look at something. If it's not really clear to them, they ask questions and they get involved with the piece. So this way, they become part of it. When everything clear from the beginning, you just pass by and that's it. You don't need to know more than what you see.
So what are you saying? It seems like you're saying that you have to distort things somewhat to get people's attention. Otherwise, they walk by because it is too much
In a way,
what they're used to seeing.
yeah, in a way, that's the
Interesting.
way to do it, you know. But it's not only because of them, because of that's what I want to do it. That's my way to express myself, you know. The beauty about art that you can do whatever you want. It's not reality. You create your own reality, and I'm not trying to just copy the reality that exists. I want to do my own one. So sometimes when I look at the face or I look at the object or something, I give you another twist to look at, you know, not exactly what you're expecting to see.
What are the satisfactions in making art?
That's a good question. First of all, I have to be pleased what I'm doing it, you know. Otherwise I won't do that. But the process of creativity, that's what's really important. It's not the final piece, it's the creation of it and the process. The process is a major part of that joy. Because after I finish the work, I let it go. It's like it's a graduate already, you know. But when it's still at home in the kitchen, when you're working on it, that's where you struggle with it, or you enjoyed it, or the whole process. That's what makes it interesting to me. And later on, I'm not attached to it, you know. I can give it away.
Yeah.
I don't feel in love with my work, really.
Does it change you after you complete it, or the process of completion?
I really enjoyed, I get, let's put it this way, I get my climax when it's finished.
Yes.
When I see that I look at the work and I decided it's finished now. So that's my thing. That's
Analytically, do you decide it's finished, or viscerally do you decide?
No, it goes through the brain first, really.
It goes through the...
It's a combination, I think, of you got the guts, something happened, and you feel like that's it, you know. I can't tell you exactly what's the process that I go through it, but when I look at a piece, I can tell if it's finished for me or not. And I don't know, maybe that's part of being an artist. I can't tell.
What drew you to become an artist?
I always said I didn't choose to be. I was chosen to be, you know, because since I was a kid, I was playing around with things without knowing that it's really art. Because I grew in an environment that it wasn't really so clear like today, when kids grow up and they know about art and they go to museums and they see shows and they know about art history. When I grew up, I didn't come from this kind of background.
What kind of background did you come from?
Because my family were immigrants from Iraq to Israel, and it was, for me, art was something completely new, you know. And that time also, just think about it, we didn't have even yet a museum over there when I grew up. So it took a while to get, I understood that I'm doing something that it's related to art. And then when I rolled to art school, I realized that's what I want to do.
How did you develop such courage in your life? I read your biography about, maybe you'd say something about your life, just because others might not know.
Well, if we'll start from the beginning, my parents came from the Middle East, from Iraq, right? And at the time, that was after the war, there were some problems there too. A lot of problems, not only in Europe. And my family had to escape. And overnight, we had to escape, to leave everything behind, going through with the smugglers, going through the mountains to Iran. And in Iran, from there, we had to stay for about a year because my father was, you know, that generation never talks about anything. So I don't know. He was a tent for about a year, and we had to wait until he would be released. And then we immigrated to Israel legally. And that's how it started my life. And you are talking about, I was about 5 years old when it happened.
Scary.
Yeah, but you know, the whole trip and all that was really something, you know, that especially today people maybe will understand it. You know, we were, in order to escape, we are Jewish, right? And my father chose a smuggler that was a driver that drive Shi'is to one of the holiest place by the border between Iran and Iraq. And my parents had to dress like an Arab, and me and my brother they told us not to say anything, and we were kids, you know.
Young kids.
It took about 4 days to go through the mountains and all that. Now, just think about it. We were sitting on the back seat, and if those people knew who you are, I don't think I would be here today. But I don't know if my father was smart at the time or something wrong with him, but that's the decision that he made, how to escape. And fortunately, we did it. Yeah.
And how did you come to the United States from Israel?
Well,
What brought you
no,
to
when
think
I
so
go in Israel,
huge?
Yeah, well, I go in Israel, of course, schooling, army, everything, and I got scholarship to study over there, and then I got also to study overseas. And I came to the West Coast. I went. It was fun that time. There were hippies and.
You're an adventurer.
Yeah, and I never left the country at the time. So for me, it was really a big deal to go to a completely different culture, different universe, actually.
Were your parents supportive of that idea?
Well, my parents were in that stage that they let me do whatever I want.
You were headstrong.
Yeah.
A little bit?
I was the one that decided what to do at the time, you know.
Courage, that's what I said. You were brave.
Well, maybe you could say it now when I look back, but I had nothing else going on for me, you know. I mean, in art school, there is not much there to do, and I got scholarship to study abroad, so it was great. But I didn't attend like to stay. It just things rolled, and you know how is it with life. You meet the right people, you get all kind of offer to have shows, commission, or something, and one lead to another, and you stay. Especially when you don't have, when I came here, I wasn't married, I didn't have any responsibility, so I can do whatever I want, really.
So the importance of being well-liked is the importance in sales. I mean, you were saying you got these sales. I'm amazed you come here probably without knowing English. Did you know English?
Not really well, no.
No.
I mean, I struggled everything from the beginning because I didn't know people there.
Yes.
The language wasn't really, even now it's not good enough, but it was really bad. And I had to work hard for it, you know. You had to go through all kind of tests also to be accepted to schools. Not that I care about the degree, but that's the only way you get to know and you get into the field. You meet the right instructors, the right teachers, the right artists, and one lead to another. I went to 2 schools at the same time without knowing each other. They didn't know that I'm in California College of Arts, and I went to San Francisco State University. Just because there were different kind of teachers in one school and another kind of teachers in another school. And that was interesting to have that kind of combination. One of them was more into photorealism and something more real, and the other school were more conceptual and minimalist, and that combination was very good for me.
And also your background. I mean, living in a couple of different countries, and just before we started taping, you talked about doing work in various European countries, and that you learn from, you know, there's exchange, as it were, of at least aesthetics or influences. Talk a little bit about that.
You know, wherever you travel, it's just like charging the batteries.
Yes.
You need some other drive, some other ideas that will move you further. All my work, since I started until now, you can, if I will put, let's say, cross-section of the work, you will understand where I'm coming from and where I'm going. And that's what interests me, to show those stages all the time, how it started and where it's going. And every time that I got grant and I go some other places, it's open for me another door to move, to push that ideas that I'm working with further. Give you an example. For instance, if you look at this kind of work, you see it's divided, right?
Yes.
There are a lot of...
Sectioned.
Yeah, and there are different kind of images, but somehow they are working together as organic form. This kind of work, for instance, I started that only in 1990, and that was after having gone, I was invited actually to the Soviet Union at the time. By Professor Morozov from Moscow University. And I've been invited there, and they took me all over the places and so on. The whole idea was that they wanted some artists to get involved with their own there. So they...
With their own artists?
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's not something that I applied. It's something that they saw my work. I had a show in Los Angeles, and they showed it. And then they came here, and they were convinced to invite me. Now, why I'm telling you this story? I didn't do this work before that, but when I went there, it was just Gorbachev just got released the churches, and the whole communism thing started falling apart, right? And the churches at that time, until that time, they were most of them warehouses, or because people couldn't really worship there. So they were all run down or so, and he was just opening them to let people start going back to used to do before the whole communism things. And what was interesting, I went to few churches. By the way, I love to go to churches or all those worship places, because that represents culture, the history of the people, everything you can go, you can see it there. I look at it as open book for culture in those places. So I saw the church, for instance. I went to a few of them, and they were all the same way. People start moving everything out and cleaning up the place. And the first things that they did, they cleaned the main wall there, white walls, and they start bringing the icons that they had, that they were hiding, and putting them on the walls. And it was interesting. You see a wall, and there are zillions of icons all over. Now, the thing is that people start coming to the church, and you saw there people, mainly older generation, and some of them leaning, some of them bending, some of them just standing, and some of them crying, and every one of them pray to different icon. Everybody has his own God. It's not like a center picture there. Not like you're going to synagogue or church and there is a center there, and those people were, you know, one looking up there, one over here, one down there. And that clicked something in me, that the pictures really, the main pictures, it's made out of components. It's not, if you will just ask me where I live and I tell you on Mercer Street and you want me to describe it for you, I'll tell you there is here a store, there's here a telephone poles, there is here a mailbox, you know, all that create the streets. So to me, to give you the pictures, it has to be with components, different ones. That's part of the concept that I was working on it for a long time. It's about the environment, and the more information that you give there, it's make it more clear to you in a way. One of the commission that I got because of that, it was NASA. NASA, they have For 50 years, they had a program that they choose every year one artist to be the artist for that year, and they give him assignment. Now, it's not something that you apply.
Oh, that's an
You
honor.
have to be nominated for that. The assignment that they gave me was a tribute to Columbia, the shuttle that exploded. You know.
Yes.
And and I did research about it. I had to spend time with them there. They let me go to places that ordinary people never get there. I tell you, it's amazing. And to collect material and to be inspired by it, and then to come up with something. Yeah. And then the thing is, they asked me, what do I need for my work? I said, I would like to have a tire of the shuttle.
Oh.
You know, what's happened every time that the shuttle goes up and come down, of course, they change the tires. Because those tires, the shuttle doesn't have brakes. And the tires, let's say if they have this much texture of rubber, when it's landed, it's reduced to that.
No, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
Thank you for teaching
That's why
me
they
that.
have the parachute to stop it, you know.
Yes. Oh.
So they bought me a tire here that the shuttle, of course, went a few times up there, you know. And one of those tires at the exchange, they brought it here. And I used it, I wanted to have the print.
Yes,
So
of the
I
tire
put ink
tread.
on it, yeah. I put ink on the tires and I rolled it on white paper and I didn't want to fake those steps. I wanted really to have the real thing. And that's what I did, you know. But it was really interesting that they told me I can do whatever I want with the tire, to chop it, to cut it, to whatever with the art. But whatever left, every piece that we left from the tire, I have to return it back to them. It's a government property.
What kind of work were you doing then that you think might have attracted the committee to choose you as an artist for this?
I think that I could give more information in one piece. It's not like only one image or so. I can give a whole story of those people there. I'll give you an idea. For instance, there were 7 people there that died.
Yeah.
And every one of them has a different job, different purpose on the shuttle. And in one piece, I could represent each one of them, what he did in the shuttle and what he did beside being in the shuttle, in his private life. For instance, one astronaut, she used to raise flowers, mainly roses. Another one, the pilot was a photographer, major photographer. Another one was a jet pilot, a fighter. So to give all those kind of information there, or their personal things in the shuttle has every one of them has different colors. So all their personal things, they will have the same color, so this way they can identify it. So I picked up all those kind of codes and I use it in my work. I'll give you another example. For instance, you saw many pictures that they're marching towards the shuttle, and they all kind of march one after the others and they're waving. Yeah. They never wave this way, they always wave this way. 2 reasons for that. I discovered there. One, it's because the suit is heavy to raise the hand. But I thought that's the main reason, but it's not. They do that this way because there were zillions of photographers there, and they don't want one of them to block the other face behind. Because they don't have second chance.
Yes.
They're walking there, you photograph them. And so those kind of things, you know, I picked up all kind of ingredients, I call them, that you don't really aware of them, and I put them in the piece, you know. And I could put many of those kind of things in one piece. And I think that's why they...
And where do they display the piece?
Oh, it went for 3 years. It's traveled all over United States with a show that they call it 50 Years of NASA. And it's traveled, the Smithsonian has a branch in every state.
Oh.
And it went through all these branches of the museum. In Washington, for instance, it was in the Space Museum. It was for 3 months there. And then when it's ended, it's now in their museum in Houston. That's the NASA museum. And there is a book about it too. It was a book and was on TV and all kind of things.
You're part of history.
Yeah. No, I got something out of it. It was really good because I always buy my stuff in a hardware store here, and so.
Yes.
And you know, you go there, you buy, and nobody give a damn about you. And all of a sudden, everybody come to me and try to please me and to serve me better. They saw the video. It was on Channel 1 and.
I'm thrilled for you. So we learned a lot here. You have to be an entrepreneur in your life, everywhere. Secondly, you have to recharge yourself or be a spark plug in your own life. Third, you have to really generate a different you, as it were, from the experiences you have. So I encourage you to look at your life and find those opportunities and be brave when you go forward, because you can have the most wonderful life, maybe even recognized at the hardware store, that Ziggy has. But in any case, remember, every week I ask you the same thing. Please go out and do something kind for someone you know and someone you don't know, and do it again the next day. Thank you for so much for tuning in, and thank you, Ziggy. I so appreciate that.
To contact Junia, send her an email at juniadownsthespark@gmail.com. For more information, program schedules, and news about future guests, go to www.juniadownthespark.com. Thank you for joining us. See you next time on Junia Doan's The Spark.
Local productions on QTV are made possible with support from viewers like you. Thank you.